Okay, go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone. It's the CLSA webinar on NSPS member benefits. We have two guest speakers today. Are Carl C. DeBaca, who is the NSPS Area 9 Director, and Matt Vernon, CLSA's NSPS Governor. To ask questions, we ask that you use the Q&A over on the right-hand side of your screen to ask the questions. They will be recorded for the webinar at a future playback. So with that, I turn it over to Carl and
Matt. Welcome everybody to the webinar on NSPS. It's titled Reorganize to Better Serve Our Profession. And again, my name is Matt Vernon. I'm the California Governor representing California for CLSA at NSPS, the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Some of you know me, maybe some of you don't. I've been involved with CLSA for quite a number of years. I recently was past president in 2009 and served as the NSPS Governor since 2006. So with us today is Carl C. DeBaca. Carl is the Area 9 Director, so he represents California on the Board of Directors at NSPS. He's a former Executive Committee member of CLSA. He had to depart shortly after becoming Secretary in 2006 when he moved to Nevada, but Carl's deeply involved in California survey issues, and he's been involved with the PS from, I think it was back in 2002, right, Carl, when you were chairman of the NAFTA committee at NSPS.
Right. Yeah, there was a national issue that came up, and California asked to review the issue, and we wrote a response letter, and because of that letter, I got drafted to serve on a national committee, so I've been involved ever since.
About today, we're going to talk a little bit about some background on NSPS, sort of explain where we've been and where we're going. We're going to talk about NSPS's relationship to the American Council of Surveying Mapping, ACSM, about the merger that occurred last year between NSPS and ACSM, and we'll talk a little bit about how the organization is governed. We'll talk about some of their programs and services that they provide. And then I want to talk a little bit more about what the next steps are for NSPS and what we see in the future. So it was formed in 1992, and its whole goal really was to be the national voice for land surveyors. Or I shouldn't say currently, but in 2012, their membership was a little under 2,000. It's open to all persons really trained or registered in the profession of surveying and mapping. Some of the objectives, I'm not going to go through each of these. You can spend time reading them, but they're very similar to the objectives and the goals that CLSA pursues. And they're all about the promoting the profession of land surveying and professional and ethical behaviors. A little bit about the structure of NSPS and how it relates to ACSM. It's been a mystery, I think, to a lot of people, and I was hoping to kind of clarify the form structure and relationship of the states, the National Society, and the ACSM. There's kind of a organizational chart here, and there were four organizations that rolled up underneath the Congress. And that was, beginning on the left, the American Association for Geodetic Surveying, the Geographic and Land Information Society, and the NSPS. And CLSA was affiliated as a member organization under NSPS. So they also were state sections that were really just gathering points for members of ACSM to interact. They didn't have any real action in the organization other than to provide a gathering place. And of course, there was the foundation that gave out scholarships and those type things. So in this structure, you can see that the state of California really had very little influence in the overall pursuits of ACSM. Carl, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I would just say that the structure, Congress, the C in ACSM is Congress, and it was organized like a Congress. So each of those member organizations had a seat at the table, actually 2 votes. There were, in its final incarnation, there were 6 representatives in the Congress, 2 from each organization. So, the two surveyors had an overwhelming majority of the membership in the ACSM, and at the end of the organization, we had 92% of the ACSM membership. But because of the structure of the Congress, we only had 33% of the vote. As issues got more challenging and each organization started, going their own separate way a little bit, it became harder and harder to get any sort of consensus at the Congress level with a third of the vote, and that led to the decision that we needed to go in a different direction.
And so in 2012, ACSM merged with NSPS, and NSPS assumed all the assets and liabilities of the ACSM as the surviving corporation. And as part of that, AAGS joined NSPS as an affiliate, a seat at the board of directors level. GIS, on the other hand, decided to go a different direction as they seceded from the Congress altogether and carries on today as an independent organization. The org chart now is a little different than it was in the past, and it kind of rolls up from the states through the Board of Governors, where each state has a representative on that board, along with District of Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, and a representative, a non-voting representative from the Canadian Council of Surveyors. And so then it sort of rolls up from there into the board of directors, where AAGS now has a seat there, and up through to the officers. So governance. The society is governed by the board of directors. Each director represents a region of the state, a region of the country, and so each region is called an area. And an area will consist of typically several states. We are Area 9, and Carl is our area director. And Carl represents California, Nevada, Hawaii, and Guam. The board of directors meet twice a year during the spring and fall meetings. What were formerly the ACSM meetings are now the NSPS meetings. The executive committee also meets 2 additional times a year. This has working agreements with the state organizations. They're considered member organizations, and they have a governor which is representing each state on the board of governors. But interestingly is that the board of governors function really as an advisor to the board of directors. They have no real voting power or influence in the true direction of the organization. The chairman, however, of the board of governors does sit on the board of directors and is kind of the voice of those state representatives and brings issues from the board of governors to the board of directors' attention. Anything there?
That's a pretty complete overview of the situation. I could cite a couple examples in the past of the advisory nature and the limitations thereof for the governors. Having once been a governor and having seen, unanimous proposals from the governors rejected at the director's level, and in fact, part of that reason why I ran to be a director in the first place is to see if there's a way that we could maybe get more ability to express the desires of California at the national level. So, having said that, the organization, as it's currently structured, works fairly well, and the chairman of the Board of Governors does a vote and does, in cases that I can think of, act as the voice of the governors at the big table.
So there are 10 area directors. The Board of Directors is made up of those 10 area directors, along with the Board of Governors, and there are also some executive directors from a small state and a large state, which also participate on that board. There's a map, sort of the breakdown of the areas, and you can see A9 is made up of 4 states. So really, California has, 1/4 of one vote on that board. To the formal governance of the organization, the governors are broken out into caucuses that have been formed over the years, and those caucuses include Great Lakes Council, which is the northeastern states, Area 3-4 governors, which is mainly the southeastern states, and then there's a Western States Governor Council that is all states invited to that are west of the Mississippi. And each one has varying levels of organization. One of them has a due structure even, and others are more loosely run. When I first came on as a governor, Western States was very loosely run, and over the years has fortunately really developed into a strong caucus, and they become fairly influential on the governor's Board of Governors.
I'd like to add that the Western States Governors Council was very loose. It didn't seem to really have any purpose, and rarely did they ever get together on an issue. The first roughly elected leader of that council, and in the years that he ran it, he really gave it some structure and some purpose, and during the merger and the reorganization work that we've done in the last couple of years, that council of governors has become very influential. And there's very strong analogies to WestFed. And in fact, in the past, we've shared certain. I've been both the WestFed and the Western States Governors Council guy. So I think that because of the assertive nature of Western governors, I really think that this is going to continue to be one of the influential groups in the organization.
I'm glad you brought that up about WestFed, because that is sort of our connection with WestFed. We seek input from WestFed at the Western State Governor Council, and we have dialogue back and forth with them. So that's helpful. There are standing committees, some of the CLSA, that where really all the heavy lifting organization gets done. Programs and the like come from these committees, and the programs are administered through all these committees. So I often ask, what benefit comes from NSPS? What do you guys do that is relevant to me? I mean, I'm a local surveyor. I boundary surveys, or I do topos or construction staking. What do I care about the national organization? Well, I think I find it interesting to hear some of the things that the national organization really does that benefit you behind the scenes. First, I want to talk a little bit about the ALTA, ACSM title specifications, and I think I'm hopeful most of us know what those are and use them probably on a very regular basis. He is the chairman of that committee. He does a fantastic job in coordinating with the Land Title Association, with title companies and attorneys, in developing these specifications and refining them over the years. The last refinement was in 2011, and to me, a very significant refinement was the certification became standardized and was a major win for surveyors to standardize that certification, and any other certification was generally deemed that it was not an ALTA survey. And that was really big, personally for me, in my negotiations with clients and title companies. Talk a little bit about agency coordination.
Some good examples of things we've done with, with respect to agency coordination. NSPS formed a foundation along with BLM to jointly publish and help disseminate the new BLM manual. BLM didn't seem to have the interest level or maybe even the staffing to accomplish it by themselves, and as we had a vested interest in making sure that the manual was available. So that's one of the things we did. We've been working strongly with FEMA for years on their map modernization program, and each time there's a suggestion for a budget cut that might await map modernization or may switch it to doing something like digitizing old maps on the old datums, we've managed to proceed and advocate for using surveying techniques. The NGS is a agency with budgetary constraints and a decreasing budget, and one of the things we've done besides working with them on a variety of data-related issues is to help advocate for them to keep their budget and not diminish the level of service. And that goes to their parent organization, NOAA, as well. In addition to that, we have provided experts feedback on a bunch of different issues with them. And then FIG, we're active in a couple. There are many different commissions at the International Surveying Mapping Group, but we're really active in a couple. But we seem to be some success there in getting an American point of view out.
A question here, will the ALTA still be referred to as an ALTA ACSM survey under future standards? And the answer to that is yes. NSPS owned and retains the rights to the name ACSM, and from my understanding from Gary Kent, the ALTA, or the American Land Title Association, would prefer to keep the acronym the same. They've built a brand on that, and they want it to remain the same. And then the Government Affairs Committee is a really big part of what NSPS does. Carl, I'd like to talk a little bit about that.
Well, one of the core strengths of the organization, maybe the core strength of the organization, the thing that we do on Capitol Hill and with the various federal agencies, it's probably the most important thing that we do on any given day. We add it in a number of different ways for surveyors, and just one simple example would be the light squared battle, which took place in 2011 and finished up in 2012, but actually started back in like 2009. The Government Affairs Committee are the ones who conceived and organized and ultimately executed the successful battle against light squared, including the Lobby Day event, which was really effective. We had a lot of people come out to the Lobby Day event, and we visited an awful lot of senators and congressmen. we provided congressional testimony with respect to what the effects of the layered proposal would have been to the terrestrial GPS system, and we provided expert consulting for allies who some that our allies had much more clout than us, but they probably couldn't have won the bet without our ability to explain exactly how GPS works and why it's irreplaceable. So that's the kind of thing we do. We have a very active in COFPACE through COFPACE, which is pretty joined at the hip with the Joint Government Affairs Committee. We argue for qualification-based selection for survey services at all levels, local, state, and federal agencies. And we just hired a new consultant on list, and they have a pretty good reputation, and we think that we're going to be able to step up our presence on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, it's not understated to say that they have a 95% rate in having RFPs retracted when they're not in compliance with the Brooks Act, and that's really huge. I mean, that's something worth mentioning. TrigStar is another program that's actually a National Society of Professional Surveyors program. I think a lot of folks think it's a CLSA program because it's implemented at the local level, but the TrigStar committee formulates all the questions for the test and grades it and judges it every year, and it's a very successful program to, at a minimum, expose potential recruits in the profession to what we do and who we are, and it's an excellent program. I know that California has had a lot of success with TrigStar. A certified survey technician program. I'll ask Carl to talk about this because he really uses this a fair amount in Nevada. Carl?
Yeah, this is a program that really isn't all that old. I would guess it's probably 10 years old, maybe 11 or 12 at the most. But it's still slow, but it's picked speed, and surprisingly, it even kept up its momentum and maybe even increased it a little bit through the last few years of tough economic times. I think the employers that are still considering hiring survey staff are looking for better ways to evaluate their survey staff, so they're embracing this program. And while it's a 4-step certification program, there's actually I think there's probably 8 or 9 different exams because after the CST level 2, it branches out into both field and office tracks. So they have a bunch of different set tracks. And when I'm at locally, I've been asked to be a proctor of the exam. This will be my 6th year as a proctor, and I think I've done nine different exams now. And from my perspective, it's a very smoothly run, valuable program. There's a single person at the central office who administers the whole thing, and then there's it's a standardized test format, and it's easily graded and evaluated. And because of the nature of the proctors being basically interested volunteers, it's very easy to implement if there's a desire in some area for a CST exam. It's pretty easy to find a proctor and get it organized, get it going. So the fact that the employers and examinees have sent us has all been overwhelmingly positive. I think it's a pretty good program, and as a proctor, I'm not allowed to actually look at the test, so I only get information in the exams kind of secondhand, but they sound like they're fairly challenging exams. And
I guess from my point of view, probably the most exciting thing on the horizon for that program is the fact that there are plans to develop a training guide or some sort of personal development program that will go along with what's currently now just an examination program. So that's exciting future for CST. Actually, NSPS is directly involved in the accreditation of survey programs in the country, and we're a decisive voice in selecting worthy college and university programs to be accredited. Honestly, when we're going through the CSM and NSPS merger, there are a couple of organizations that were kind of hanging on the backside, waiting for us to step aside from this program. And it was, for me to consider an engineering organization or some other organization other than surveyors to do that was kind of scary. I'm happy to report that NSPS is still directly involved in that and to continue to recruit folks to be part of that process and visit the programs and determine their worthiness.
That's there's right now there's a shortage of and a need for evaluators to go and visit these schools, and ABAS has let NSPS know that they would be delighted if more people volunteered to become evaluators. And you don't ABAS and NSPS, neither one want to scare off qualified surveyors. So having a bachelor's degree or something in surveying is not a necessary requirement to become an evaluator. Experience, relevant experience, and it's in the profession are probably more valuable. So there's a fairly simple process to apply to become an evaluator.
I have a couple questions here. I want to just back up just a tad to the TRIGSTAR. Question here about, I'm just going to read it. Some chapters are hosting large events, 150 to 200 kids at TRIGSTAR, providing food and monetary prizes. CLSA provides some funding offset for the chapters having these programs. Then we see some financial assistance from NSPS. This is a great question because this kind of dovetails back to not only TRIGSTAR but to our Government Affairs Committee, who has actively pursued ways to get additional funding to grow that program even further. And we've gone through a couple of iterations and been directed to approach this in a couple different ways. I'm excited that our new lobbyist has some new ideas about how to approach this, and I'm hopeful that we'll gain some traction at the national level on that. So that answers that question. Another thing that NSPS does is they collaborate with the NCSS on exam issues. The NCSS has been influential in helping us get the word out on who surveyors are and what we do. They were part of our outreach in the Spotlight On program that aired on PBS, and they for years have published a speaking kit called Measuring the World Around Us. And so, that's a good collaboration between the two organizations. I think it's been helpful for both of us. NSPS is taking over the hydrographic certification program through the merger of ACSM. You know about the hydrographic certification program. It's a way for hydrographic surveyors to get certified and show a professional level of understanding of the work that they do. Currently, there is no licensing in place for hydrographic surveyors as a standalone, and so this certification program is important, especially to Californians, in that this falls under the guise of professional land surveying, and we need to understand the level of expertise that these people bring to us when we're using them as either sub-consultants or consultants on our projects and overseeing their work. So this can be an added amount of confidence in their work. The insurance program has gained a lot of ground in the last couple of years. I speak to members that tell me they joined NSPS for this entitlement alone, getting excellent savings in their insurance and professional liability insurances. I've heard nothing but great things about the program, and it continues to be successful.
Yeah, I have. I probably have chosen the CSA insurance program, which is, excellent, but it's not for outside the boundaries of California, and I had to find an insurance program for myself, and this one's been terrific for me. I'm saving thousands of dollars a year, and it's first-rate insurance, and it's not for everybody. There wouldn't be any reason for Californians to pick this one because they've got so many options in state, but for the rest of us, it's a valuable program.
A couple final things I just wanted to mention. There's been a rash of thievery happening in our profession. Florida has experienced an alarming number of robberies, roadside takings of their instrument at gunpoint, those type of things. And NSPS has worked with the manufacturers on trying to find ways to safeguard our equipment, whether it's through, an onboard tracking chip or what have you. One of the things that we've done is established a stolen equipment registry where you can register your equipment so that others can see, if they're making purchase of some used equipment, maybe they can get on there and see that it hasn't been stolen. The Same Merit Badge program is another program that comes from NSPS and is implemented at the local level. I know that CLSA has a program and has been pretty involved in this. Get the word of youngsters about what we do, and they're really the future of our profession. The cashing program to sort of cash in, so to speak, not to no intended, but to sort of cash in on this craze of people using their handheld GPS to find little bees hidden away in different places. So that's an interesting program that they provide. And of course, there's a website. Like anybody else, they have a website that you can use as a resource. Anything to add to that?
I covered it pretty well. The stolen equipment issue, I think that's a trend that we're going to see more and more of. With GPS, it's awfully tempting to leave a base station set up somewhere, and in Florida, they've experienced those base stations turn up missing all the time, and so they've started putting somebody there to stay with the base station all day long, and now people are pulling up at gunpoint, taking the equipment and throwing it in a truck and drive away. So this is an issue that we're seeing, primarily in Florida and other parts of the South, but it's going to be a nationwide trend before long. And the Surveying Merit Badge, there's some really strong feelings in NSPS about it. They love the program, especially those Southern boys, and they're very actively involved in when those national jamborees. It's pretty to get a spot if you wanted to participate as a, help on the Merit Badge program. You about have to wait in line to get in that program.
Just a sampling of the things that the organization does, and I think you can see from this is a good example that what we do is relevant to the California surveyor. It's relevant at the local level, and its goal is not to supersede the local or the state organization, but to augment it. While we do have a little bit of overlap maybe in the insurance program, I think lots of stuff that is really there not to overstep the state associations, but to augment what they're doing.
and in fact, we're going to discuss it here in the next couple of slides in your presentation. But I think that the perception that somehow the national organization is going to take over the state organizations is completely backwards. It's going to be the other way around. The states are going to have more and more say, and the national organization is going to be a servant to the desires of the states. I really think that's the direction that we're headed.
Really good segue to our next slide here, Carl. And that is where are we going to go from here? What's next on the horizon for NSPS? And I wanted to say that the merger between ACSM and NSPS, it really came from an intention to truly become the national voice for land surveying. I think we've been by certain organizational matters or efficiencies, and this merger was one step in a process of straightening those issues out, and I think we're seeing good success because of that. And so the organization is more efficient and is continuing to provide the programs and services that it always has, and it's working, becoming really truly the national voice of surveying. In 2012, we estimated that there was probably 30,000 surveyors in the United States, and we had maybe 2,000 of them. That represents maybe 8 to 12% of all state surveying association members. That's pretty poor. When we go to Capitol Hill and we lobby for things like TRIGSTAR funding, we're asked that question. Who do you represent? And the best we can tell them is 2,000 people. So we've recognized that if our ship was higher, if we represented a greater number of our constituents, that we would gain influence at the national level with our legislators, with other agencies and administrators, and obviously be much more persuasive. And so really from that frustration, sort of a grassroots effort that came from the governors, and a motion came out through the governors and up through to the board of directors to create what we're, has sort of led us to this point today, which is what we're focusing on, is the 100% affiliation membership program. And I was going to turn it over to Carl to sort of run us through what that program is all about.
I'd like to back up just a little bit and give you a little background on the whole concept. This all started out in 2008, 2009 with a marketing study that indicated that the general public and the rest of the geospatial community was unclear, the differences between the NSPS and ACSM, and maybe even unclear on the purposes for either of those organizations. And combined with declining membership and that all the governors and the directors felt with recruitment efforts, we started looking around at things to do. And my recollection is in 2009 there was a governor from Minnesota named John Freemeyer who, in a membership committee meeting, said it out loud. The elephant in the room. He said, if all the members of all the state organizations could belong to NSPS, I wonder how low the dues could go. And that got action. Some people in their spare time did some, back of the note calculations and came up with a number of around $40 or $50, and that suddenly created kind of a target zone. And by 2011, long governors like Malcolm Shaw from New York, who has a long and sterling, if somewhat prickly reputation. Malcolm got up in front of the board of governors and said, let's quit BSing about this and let's just do it. And he made a motion, which was passed unanimously by the board of governors, to find a way to make a structure that would offer 100% membership to all the states, and let's work out the problems that creates as we go. And I sat there as a director watching the Board of Governors in action, kind of stunned, because these were things I'd been thinking about for a long time, dating back to when I was governor. And one got traction and took off. It was amazing. It passed unanimously on day one at the Board of Governors meeting, and in day two it passed unanimously at the Board of Directors meeting. And in the next 6 months, a committee that was formed to look at how to do it had come up with a structure, and now we're a year into it, and we have and half, almost 2/3 of the states are in more along the continuum of signing up, and it's really important. In my perspective, it's really important to emphasize that this was a grassroots movement. This was not, the latest scheme, stood on the electorate by the board of directors and the officers to find a way to solve our money problems or anything else. This was frustrated governors who wanted their states to have this membership opportunity, and they finally shook the directors aside and found a way to do it. And so, going back to my comment about the fact that I think that the organization will soon become subservient to the states, I believe that to be true because it's the states themselves, the governors that made this proposal and put this together. Matt, if you want to, there we go. In the membership program, what we're talking about is asking states to consider as a 100% affiliate. It's a new category of membership. It's not mandatory. California or any other state could stay with the same relationship that they currently have, but there are certain benefits. It's 100%, and I will discuss a couple of those fairly obvious ones. First of all, if you are an NSPS member and you belong to a state that isn't 100% affiliate member, then your dues are going to be the same as they always have. But if you state joins as an affiliate member, then the dues rate that we originally targeted, we've managed to find a way to hold that $40. So if you join CLSA becomes a 100% affiliate member, then true dues goes up by $40. But a side effect, a benefit of that is that automatic membership in NSPS. So that's pretty key, I think. We're offering, I shouldn't say we're offering, the reality of the situation is that the governors who put this together demanded and the privilege that states that join as 100% members, their governor or another select if they choose to have a separate governor director, but they will have direct representation on the board of directors. At the most recent meeting in the spring here, we had, I think we seated, I don't remember now, but I think it was around 16 or 18 new representatives. Those were the states who had signed their MOUs, their memorandums of understanding, and so we had a board meeting that had, like I said, 16 or 18 new members. There were some concerns that might lead to a disorganized meeting and might not get much done, but actually everybody was very professional. We found a way to make sure that salient commentary was made, but without prawn like I tend to do. And so the meeting didn't really last any longer. We got business done, and we demonstrated that a board of directors can be created and effectively run with on each state. And this is something that you CSA members should know intuitively, because you have a big board of directors with many people serving on the board as we would have at the national level, and business is rarely done more effectively than it is at the CLSA table. So we solves a lot of problems, and it gives us a lot more clout, realistically speaking, when we go to Capitol Hill, and when my senator says, so exactly who do you represent? When we're able to say 30,000 senators across the nation, and I think that's a lot in your back pocket.
the mechanics of this are that the affiliate member or the state survey organization submits their roster to NSPS, and NSPS determines what their payment will be based on the $40 per member dues rate, right? And once they submit that to the NSPS, well, I guess I need to step back a step here. At the beginning, each affiliate or state organization needs to sign a memorandum of understanding agreement, qualify for the membership rate, and there is a standardized MOU that's been used. Some states have done a little bit of negotiating on that, but I will tell you in the half a dozen or dozen that I reviewed, the changes were so minor they were, I don't even know why they made them. But the bottom line is you need to come to an understanding between the two organizations and sign an agreement, and that agreement is renewed annually. It's any organization can opt out from that agreement at any time. The agreement, then the organization submits the roster. They calculate the dollar value. The organization pays the money and gains a seat at the board of directors. Pretty much up there, Carl.
Yeah, but important to note that the state has the ability to tailor its roster somewhat. Do you want the life members to be in the roster? Do you want them excluded? Do you want you can pick and choose who the regular members are that will be part of this payment. An example would be the state of Hawaii. They're considering the proposal CLSA is at the time, and one of their concerns has to do with the fact that you do not have to be a licensed professional surveyor in Hawaii to be a regular member of the Hawaiian Land Surveyors Association. So they have some concerns what to do about that, because they don't want their policy chiefs having to pay $40 to NSPS. They think that will have a diminishing effect on their membership. And so that is a perfect topic for the MOU. Specify in the MOU who will be considered a regular member and who won't. So there is some wiggle room and some negotiation room in that MOU. I saw some commentary recently from an unnamed former president of CLSA who mentioned that an exit strategy would be of critical importance to most CLSA members, and I 100% agree. I would support that completely, and I would just suggest that do with something that makes sense and that in the MOU. And they also suggested that this person suggested that perhaps an annual evaluation process from your point of view, the state evaluating the national, something that you need to do. And I don't know that needs to rise to the level of being verbiage in the MOU, but it certainly is a process that no one would be offended if you undertook.
Quick questions that I think we can get through here. One is, does this mean the $40 increase in CLSA dues is the only amount of money which will be going to NSPS, or CLSA also sending other monies to NSPS? Knowledge, CLSA is not sending any money to NSPS currently. It is all individual membership. Should the organization, CLSA, decide to sign a memorandum of understanding, they would need to pony up to $40 per member, and whether they choose to increase dues or how they choose to manage that new expense to them is their choice. Some states, I'll tell you, Alaska, they raise their dues. They continue at their rate, and they paid the money out of their general fund. States have raised their dues the entire $40. fact, one state was in the process of raising their dues anyway, so they raised it not only to $40, but another $20 on top of that. So there are varying degrees of how organizations or associations are implementing the program and managing that. Some are stepping up into the $40. You know, there's lots of different ways to handle it, and that will be, you know, I think CLSA's one of the issues in their deliberation on whether to do this program or not. Another question came in here: will NSPS entertain a membership-based representation instead of a Senate-based representation? And
let me have that.
I'll take a quick short shot at this, and my takeaway is that the new affiliate program, should CLSA choose to take this, will be a step up in regards to our historic representation and our current representation. It's being a larger state, it's not probably what most people would prefer. Of course, we'd prefer to have membership-based representation, and I think that there's an appetite on the national level for that. There's been a lot of discussion about this issue, and there's room that discussion will continue, and I think that there's a good likelihood in the future that it may move in that direction. But today is more similar to the model of the Senate. Carl, add to that?
Well, you addressed that pretty eloquently, but I would absolutely concur that there is a national appetite in some quarters, and as you might imagine, it's the larger states. You know, Texas. I've heard it in Florida. I've heard it in Illinois. That ultimately, you know, a representative sort of membership would be better. Would be what they would prefer, and I think that that's going to continue to be discussed. And I think that the thing is that it probably, you know, it may very well make sense, but I also feel that right now we have certain brush fires that we need to put out first before we can address that. And so, you know, I think that the important thing to do would be to make sure that continues to be talked about in the relevant committees, and certainly, you know, were you to come on board in the current organizational structure, advocating for that in the future is pretty logical.
So I'll talk about the success. Carl alluded that, you know, we've had roughly half of the country sign up for this program, and this is hot off the presses. I got this from Michigan, who's been tracking this. We have 24 states that have signed the MOU, and they're represented in blue on the map. There are an additional 10 states where their membership has approved the MOU, but it's in the process of being signed. There's another 6 states where their board has approved it, and they're in the process of polling their membership. All in all, we're on this doorstep to 3 states. The last one, I think, being Illinois. Those two have gotten their membership approved. Texas indicated they have a positive response. So you can see there's been, you know, some traction on the program, and that manifests itself to the fact that we can now boast 9,000 members at NSPS due to this program. Again, like I said, it's gaining momentum, and the approval of Florida and the support in Texas, I think, is big. Carl, there's a couple things that we're seeing come out of this momentum, and one of them is the legislative advocate. Do you want to talk about some of these other bullet points here?
I'd like to address the legislative advocate first before I move on to other things. You know, we've had a lobbyist for years, and you know, we've managed to accomplish quite a bit with a minimum budget and this too was, for lack of any other way to put it, was the best one we could afford. In the last couple of years, as we've looked at the reevaluating what is that we are and what we do and what we do best, we've decided that we really need to continue to focus on on our clients, and like I said, the most important of those being government affairs. So we had an opportunity to change our lobbyist, our legislative advocate, last year, and we selected an outfit called JMP that has a long history of working with other geospatial organizations, and so they're familiar with what we do. They've been an ally of ours in the past as they worked for other organizations. They've been an ally on issues. Light Squared comes to mind, but others as well. And so we had an opportunity to get them and have them work directly for us. And so we think that that is maybe an enormous upgrade in our ability to get out the issues on Capitol Hill. So it can't be understated, the importance of that achievement. Along with that, communications program, I'm going to try not to talk about this too long, but basically the Cliff Notes information on that is that we did publish a couple of magazines in the past. There were not of positive things to say from feedback we got over the years, and in addition, it was very expensive to publish magazines. Still publishing Salus Journal on occasion, and that is a joint effort between us and the GLIS. That's an obligation, but it's an important magazine, but it won't be out as frequently as it did in the past. But in order to further our communications program, in the absence of a magazine that we're publishing ourselves, we've hired a media consultant, Flat Dog Publishing. And, they publish one of the national survey magazines, and so we're going to have some input into the content of that magazine. Our important things, will be able to be published in that magazine, as well as they're going to help us with with digital communications, social media, and for that nature. So we're going to be able to get the word out, I think, more effectively than we have in the past, and that should open up opportunities for contributions from people who want to write on a national stage. So another of the bullet points that Matt's got here is reevaluating the programs and services. Right now, the NSPS is looking at every program and every committee to see, to make sure that they're still relevant, that they're still effective, and if there's ways to improve them, then we're going to focus on that. So that's pretty important, and that kind of deals with an overall strategic planning effort to be more streamlined and more modern.
Well, I think the goals of the program really are to unify the survey associations throughout the country to strengthen our profession as the national voice. And of great interest to California is to create a pathway for migrate from an advisory role to a real voting and influential role at the national level. So I also think it's important to mention the fact that in California there's currently, I don't know, Chrissy told me there's 150 NSPS members, and 90 of those are CLSA members, and each of those NSPS members are paying the $220 or whatever it is to members, and really all California surveyors are enjoying the benefits of what NSPS does, honestly, at the national level, with very few members actually carrying the cost of it. The new program is really a modest cost comparatively speaking. And one of the big goals of this thing is that we become a voice not only just for surveyors, but our allied professions and related professions. That we also include other professions such as the AAGIS and GLIS. to conclude here, I think Carl's done a great job here in demonstrating that there's been a lot of progress made at NSPS in the past couple of years. The fact that the organization really truly does provide meaningful programs that are relevant to every surveyor, not just people who do large federal projects, but do at the very local level. You are considering, CLSA is considering whether or not to be an affiliate member or not. I would just ask you to consider a couple of things. Here is the opportunity for us to gain some much more influence at the national level. Opportunity to enjoy greatly reduced dues, and at the same time to support the goals and programs of NSPS. And to support the fact that this would assist in gaining additional influence in national legislation efforts. Anything else you'd like to add at this point?
Pretty much nailed it. I thought that the whole country, NSPS in particular, a lot to gain by having say have the loudest voice possible at the national level. A lot of survey issues in California before they creep across the country, and so typical California surveyors are more prepared. You've seen it earlier. You've got the issues in hand and you've got solutions, and I think, in the coming years, we're going to be discussing new data. I think the keynote address at the CLSA Now's conference in Reno should have raised everyone's eyebrows about the fact that, what comes after NAD3. And, no one is better situated to have about that than California. So here's an opportunity to, if you come on board and you've got a seat at the direct table, that's going to be pretty active. Not seat at the director's table right now, and I've tried as hard as I can to be a strong advocate for California issues, but I also have two others in the territory to consider as well, and also I'm out at the end of this year. So, in order to continue the strong representation, I think that it would be, advantageous to at least do consideration.
We have a couple questions that have rolled in, but before I get to that, I did want to mention that, the program has been in effect basically now for a year, and it's taken some time for us to really get the word out to California, and honestly, I think that's an okay thing. We do not need to rush to judgment. I would urge CLSA members to continue to be diligent when they make this decision, and to get as much information as you can on NSPS, on this program. Feel free to talk to me and Carl, anyone else, for any of the questions that you might have, because I think this is an extremely important decision, and I want to be sure that California makes a good, informed decision. So with that, I'll go to a couple questions. I have a question here. Current CLSA has a maximum dues increase of 10% annually. Is similar clause included in the NSPS MOU, or will there be no control on potential dues increases above the $40? That is a good question, because this goes right to the heart of something that has been a fear of mine personally, is that, let's say we sign up for this $40 dues. In a year's time, when we look at this again or revisit the MOU, are they going to be asking for $60 or $100? I think it's a legitimate concern. I have an answer for you, other than to say I would urge CLSA to include something to that effect in their MOU that would assert that control. And I think that's their opportunity to do that. Carl, anything to add to the question?
I agree totally with that. Express that up front before anything that happens. up. And I also know, from being a director and having the information and the ability to vote on this for the last couple of years, that the $40 number was arrived at by looking at, what at the high crest of our best membership, what the revenue was, and then increasing that by say 15%, I think. So if all the states, 100% of the states come on board, that $40 will be the equivalent of having about a 15% increase in our operating dues than we ever had at our highest peak before. And the feeling is that, by doing that, combined with some fairly significant austerity efforts that we've embraced over the last 3 or 4 years, including not publishing a magazine, things like that, that we're able to make that work for the foreseeable future. So, it certainly wouldn't hurt to make sure that gets said out loud and in print, in writing, but I don't think that that's a concern that we need to be too about for, I would guess for 5 years anyway. It does go up occasionally. California has been the rare example of holding the dues at a firm fixed price for a long time. I can't even remember. I literally can't remember the last time they went up, but I think that this will be able to maintain with this for some time.
Next question, I'm going to scroll back a little bit in the presentation. I hope I didn't make you dizzy there, but has any other state association rejected the affiliate member program, and if so, do you know why? And my understanding, and according to this map here, the answer to that is no. There's a red would indicate rejected, or I'll call it, will indicate negative response, and I don't see any of that on the map. The most negative thing I see on this map is what is represented by the white and includes California and Colorado and some states. So that's it. Unless there are other questions, here we go. I got another question here. Have the other states that have accepted the new membership and dues noted a drop in their association membership rolls due to increased dues? I wrote a memo about this. I think I was at the last Board of Directors meeting. At the last NSPS meeting, I polled as many of the 100% member states that I could, and to get some feedback on this very question. The overwhelming answer I got was that they did not see an increase. I did have a state tell me they actually experienced an increase in membership. I'll add my own caveat to that, and is that a lot of these states have not seen the cycle turn itself over. It hasn't been a long enough time to really see any membership drops or changes. And the way these things work is, that they ask, you get your dues notice, and some will pay right away, and some people wait a month, some people wait 6 months, and some people wait till conference, and then they pay their dues. So, really, I think we need to see a complete cycle. I believe that I will get a better barometer on this very question at the next meeting, which will be in the fall of this year. Carl, anything to add to that?
Well, I think that we can do a little bit of advanced research on that topic in the next month. As you might know, in July, Bob Don, who was the 2012 president of NSPS, is going to come and speak to the State Board of Directors in Oakland. I'm going to be there as well, and I think with a month to try and get a handle on that answer, we could at least address the question if it were asked to us. I have to be completely honest, I'm really familiar with statistics of any other states than the one that I'm currently living in, Nevada. I am the state treasurer for Nevada this year, and I am dealing with membership issues. We have had a decline in membership, but I have spent hours analyzing it in great detail. Carl Rove looks at election results, and my feeling is that we've probably lost, due to as a 100% affiliate, less than 5% of our membership. The real reasons why we've lost some membership is because Nevada is still struggling. It's still about the worst state in the entire nation for the economy, and a lot of people that were members of this organization in 2012 don't even live in Nevada anymore. So, or if they do, they're tending bar now rather than surveying. So, it's a real concern. It's a real question, and I certainly wouldn't dismiss it. And there may very well be some people who simply, no one's going to tell me what to do. If you're going to make me join as a national member, then I'm not going to renew my membership. That may actually occur. I really think that if it does occur, that a year later they'll be back on board, because belonging to an organism like CLSA is just simply too important, and there are too many benefits to stay out, because you're having a SNIT. And, I said that inelegantly, but that's how it is.
Carl, and like I said, I encourage anyone and everyone to contact myself or Carl at any time about this issue or other issues. Our contact information is here on the slide. And, I think we're probably both in the who's who on CLSA. So thank you, everyone, for your time and attention and the great questions. And I look forward to hearing from you and talking to you further.
Thank you, both Matt and Carl, for taking your time, and for all the attendees. Found it very informative, as I'm sure all the other members attending this did, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys in July.
Ben.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.